What's up? What's up? What's up? When you people come in, please drop a one in the chat. Let us know that you're there. We need to do a quick sound check, and then we're gonna get right into it, guys. So I'm late for the fourth night in a row, but new technology, new fucking kinks to knock out. So it is what it is. Anyhow, let us know when you get into the chat, and we can get started.
Your stream isn't starting.
It's not?
No.
It says that I'm live on Authentic Alphas, though, through the YOLO box.
Yeah, I can see you.
Okay. Okay.
Where? You can see me on YouTube?
Yeah, I see you on YouTube.
I think, Scott, you're looking at the wrong link, bro. You're looking at the thumbnail or something for the one that's on scheduled from StreamYard. Is that what it is?
All right. Well, I'm gonna back out then if it's ready.
All right. I don't see anybody in the chat yet. Let me see if anybody's in the chat. All right, John.
It
You
says
said,
7.
huh?
It says 7 watching now.
Okay, here we go. Let's go. All right, guys. Please let me know how my sound is. Do I need to be louder, lower? What's going on? Also, let me know if you can hear John. John, say something to the people.
Hello. I'm here, Red Pill Dad.
All right. So.
Can you guys hear me? Everything okay?
Yeah. Let us know how the sound is, guys. Shabu TV, that's not helpful. I don't know what that means. I have no idea what that means, bro.
Yeah, just let us know if everything's okay, if my sound's good.
What do we got here?
Check.
Van, does that mean we're good? You guys with these emojis, I don't know what they mean. Okay, audio's good. Thank you, thank you, Shabu TV, for using, just regular words.
Yeah, it's nice to have English once in a while.
Yeah, it's nice to use English every once in a while. All right, guys. So listen, I got John here again, Red Pill Dad. Let me get him on the screen real quick. So for those of you who have been asking to get him back on, you're probably not in the chat yet, but he's here. He's coming to you from NYC. So as soon as we get some more people in the chat, we'll get cracking. And John has a lot of things, to bring up and to talk about. So, I mean, too much, man. So I'm like, all right, I got to share this with the guys, John, because you're overloading my brain. It's too much for me right now. I'm trying to think about pussy and YouTube, and John is reminding me of all the things that are going on behind the curtain. So, John, what's up, man? Tell us what's been going on since the last time you were on.
Well, first of all, just to give a reminder of who I am. I'm John, known as Red Pill Dad. A little bit about me. I was a stockbroker for 26 years. Got out of the business, but also kind of ran across, 9/11 conspiracy theories, which of course, most people kind of dismissed, thought they were a lot of BS. But so back in the days where YouTube was recommending videos based on a different algorithm than they are now, conspiracy videos were getting a lot of views, so they were getting recommended. So basically, I stumbled upon a 9/11 conspiracy video, and I had the interest in just seeing what it was really all about. And when I looked at it, my initial impression was it wasn't true. But of course, the more you look at something like that, the more truth actually comes through. And I realized that those videos based on 9/11 being an inside job and in this instance controlled demolition and not buildings falling because of planes flying into them, which is a lot of BS. It kind of woke me up. It was kind of the beginning of my waking up to the way the world is run. And once you see that, you start to look for other things. But to stay on 9/11 for a minute, after I watched the videos, I came across an organization called Architects and Engineers for 9/11 Truth. They are 4,000 architects, engineers, people involved in controlled demolition who really know what they're talking about, that looked at what happened on 9/11, and they realized that unless the laws of physics were changed on that day, there's no way things could have happened the way they were told to happen. Perfect example is that the building 1 and building 2 fell at free fall speed. Now, free fall speed means that there was nothing underneath the buildings as they collapsed that was going to slow the fall. That can only happen in a controlled demolition, because in a controlled demolition, each floor is destroyed as the other one is coming down. So there is no resistance to the collapse of the building. So that is the only way that those buildings could have fallen at free fall speed, is with controlled demolition. And then, of course, the building 7 was the absolute canary in the coal mine, because it wasn't even hit by a plane, clearly. And it still collapsed in the exact same manner in free fall speed, just like the other two. So very clear that it was controlled demolition. So when you look at 9/11 further, I went and I started looking at other aspects of what happened on 9/11, because you can understand that it's controlled demolition, but then you might want to ask yourself why it was done in the first place. So I went to one of my favorite sources that I came across when I was looking, which is the CorbettReport.com. And I ran across a video called 9/11 Trillions Follow the Money, which basically what it does is it completely looks at the money trail of 9/11. There were a lot of insiders that were shorting airline stocks, for example, on that day. There were a lot of people trading on obvious information that they must have had in order to make money based on what happened on that day. So there is a money trail in almost every way, and in so many things you can follow the money and find what's really going on. So I looked at that video, and then another one which is really interesting that was also from the Corbett Report was 9/11 war games. And again, most people aren't really aware of what happened on that day. Strangely enough, the military was basically in the middle of a big war game on that day, coincidentally, although I don't think coincidentally, where they were basically looking at scenarios for hijacked planes and, basically terrorists flying planes into buildings. Even though that scenario was actually denied by President Bush afterwards, clearly the military was doing that, and in fact, it led to all sorts of confusion, which stopped Air Force jets from being readied and sent out to check out the planes to see what was going on, and basically allowed what happened to happen. Although, to me, I think that the whole plane scenario was just a cover-up for the controlled demolition anyway, because the planes, if there were any planes, had nothing to do with it. So, that was a real eye-opener. So then I've done a lot more research in many, many areas, over the 10 years or so that I've been studying this. And there are so many things that I've learned, many of which I won't touch upon tonight because we simply don't have time. But to basically bring back to one of the main things that I've discovered is that basically those powers that are running this world are not very creative. And if you look at history, you'll see that they run the same scenarios over and over and over again. A lot of times, many years are in between these scenarios. But basically, it's the same plan, just trotted out again with a slightly different look. And so when you look at history, you can really see that. And, the old phrase that, those who don't know history are doomed to repeat it is absolutely true. So the next thing I looked at was World War I, which Corbett did a really great documentary called The World War I Conspiracy. And, the official story of World War I is that, there were entangling alliances, and Archduke Ferdinand was shot and murdered, and basically then all of these countries aligned on various sides based on what alliance they were in. So that is what essentially prompted World War I, according to the official version. What isn't said, which is brought up in this and is also, documented by Corbett in this documentary, is that basically this was planned. And all of these entangling alliances were deliberately set up. It took them 20 years to set up these alliances. And it was basically run through London, through a lot of the elites that were there. Cecil Rhodes was instrumental in this. If you don't know who he was the guy who started the De Beers Mining Company, super rich guy. Also the guy who's involved in Rhodes scholarships, which most people think is a good thing, but I wouldn't trust anybody who got a Rhodes scholarship because they're chosen for kind of devious reasons, but that's a whole other story as well. So that, excuse me, World War I was planned ahead of time. And so, and there were many reasons why it was planned, what it was for. It was no coincidence that at the end of World War I they tried to set up the League of Nations. It's always been a goal of the elite who essentially are running things to have a world government, to basically put everything under one umbrella, because that's the best way to control things. So that is actually what then led into World War II, but I won't go into that. That's a whole another story. So on to the next thing, which is kind of...
Well, hold on. Let me stop you right there, John.
Go ahead.
We're getting a lot of static, so I'm wondering, is there something on your end that's maybe too close to something? I'm not sure if...
I don't think I have anything. I mean, my computer is muted. It's only my phone that's on.
Are you talking through the headphones or the speakerphone?
I'm talking through the headphones.
Okay.
Is this better or worse?
Keep going. I mean, I don't hear any static right this second, but...
I mean, if I hold the speaker to my mouth, is that better?
I think it might be. Also, they're asking, do you have a YouTube channel?
No, unfortunately I don't. I did have a YouTube channel called No Longer Sleeping, but it was taken down.
Okay. Well, why do you think that was? Is it something specific why that was taken down?
Well, basically, you know what? In this world, especially now, when you speak truth, they take it down. Lies they can leave up, but truth is dangerous to them. So I was basically putting a lot of these videos and information out there on my channel. And, first they just started removing videos one by one, and then they just took the whole thing down.
Interesting. Was YouTube giving you like an email or something like that, a warning explanation, or just taking it down?
Yeah, they say things like, your video violates community standards, but,
Okay.
They never say what their standards actually are and why your video is actually taken down. They never give you specifics.
Right. I mean, it sounds about right. All right. Well, I mean, there's a couple of topics here, so I don't know what people would prefer for you to get into next, but I mean, you did touch on 9/11, and I don't think I want to get into anything in too much detail, but what would you suggest that they read up on to get more information on 9/11 if they want to dig deeper? I think you have here World Trade Center Building 7 demolished. I guess that's an article. And then I got www.911truth.org. So what would you suggest probably as maybe either a one-stop read or the first place to start looking for information on 9/11?
Well, for me, one of the best places is the Corbett Report. I mean, there are many other videos that he did in addition to the ones that I've mentioned. So that's a really good stop. And obviously, I think Architects and Engineers for 9/11 Truth is a great place to start because, as I said, those are professionals. They know what they're talking about when it comes to controlled demolition. They've done studies. They've really looked into this carefully, and a lot of architects have signed on to this. So, that's a really reputable place to look.
Right. I mean, I'm of the belief that all of our major war events, history-changing events, were false flag. I think that they were all, induced. I think the leaders come together and they conspire to plot and plan conflict between other countries. I don't think it's ever really organic. Just simply because the people that make that call are the people that run the country, and the people that run the countries aren't going to make that call unless they can control and orchestrate it. And I don't believe that they genuinely disagree with each other simply because I feel like they all work for the same people. I think I think we've been taught that all these countries operate independently and they're ran by presidents, prime ministers, and so on and so forth, when in actuality, none of those people actually rule those countries. They're just like the puppets or the actors or the poster boys that are put in that position for the people to identify with, for people to say, okay, this is our leader and this is what he looks like.
Yeah, absolutely. And by the way, I'll just say this, and this is not a topic I meant to talk about, and I'll talk about it maybe another time, but there's a lot of truth that's given to us in movies. Mm-hmm. And the perfect movie to explain what you're talking about is The Wizard of Oz, because there is a wizard behind the curtain who is manipulating things.
Well, I think you're gonna have to suggest that movie, because I'm gonna go out here on a limb and say that a lot of the guys probably never actually saw the original Wizard of the Oz, just because of the age demographic of most of my viewers. So I mean, guys, you're gonna have to probably put a 1 in the chat if you have seen The Wizard of Oz, and then put a 2 if you haven't. I've seen it, but I was so young when I saw it, I don't quite remember. But I remember the gist of it being that at the end you find out that it was all a big, charade, and there was somebody basically orchestrating everything, and they moved the curtain and just saw a guy back there working everything behind the scenes. But they did make a remake. Exactly right. I don't know if the remake was as detailed, but they did make a remake with, like, who was it? Diana Ross, Michael Jackson, and everything like that.
Oh, that was called The Wiz.
Oh, okay. So I wouldn't be surprised if they changed a lot of key elements of it, but I would recommend that guys watch it.
I'm not sure that plot is exactly the same. Mm-hmm. I mean, it's based on The Wizard of Oz, but I'm not sure it's exactly the same. I mean, I would recommend watching the original Wizard of Oz if you want to understand what I'm talking about.
Okay. Well, listen, I got a 2, I got a 1, a 1, a 2, a 1, and a 1. So it looks like so far majority of people in the chat, I think we only have like maybe 15, 20 people viewing right now. So it looks like majority of the guys that weighed in said they actually did see it. I don't know how much of it they remember. Like I said, I saw it, I just don't remember any of it. But we're going to get into another topic real quick. We're going to kind of keep it moving. But you guys feel free to kind of like ask John any questions. Just get in the chat, super chat them if need be. Obviously, contributing to the channel is helpful. This video will not be monetized just because of the subject matter. I can already tell you that YouTube is not going to monetize this stream, which is fine. But anyhow, we're basically just trying to spread awareness, and I guess a lot of people will see it on the playback. I didn't get to promote it as much as I would have liked. But if you have any questions on any of these topics, or just the overall scheme of things that are being hid from us, feel free to ask John, as he will perform better if you guys give him his curiosities. So just kind of think about that in the next few minutes. And I want to kind of move on to the next topic that John wanted to touch on, which is, I don't know if you want to go into 9/11 trillions, or if you think you're kind of done with that, but you do have the follow the money aspect of it here before war games. So I don't know if you want to touch on any of those before you get into World War I, or go back into World War I. Yeah, go back into it. I know you didn't finish with World War I. Go ahead.
No, actually, I did finish with World War I for now. I mean, but I was actually going to move into Spanish flu, which I think is very topical for today.
Perfect. Okay, yeah, we'll do that. We'll definitely do that. Mass slackers and deadly spit. Okay, perfect.
So, are you ready?
Yeah, definitely. Go ahead, and I'll be back here working some stuff.
All right. So, I mean, as I said before, a lot of the things that we see today are things that were run before. And I think if you look at what's happening today and you look at Spanish flu, there are a lot of similarities. I won't talk about today right now, but I will talk about the Spanish flu. So and just as an aside, and this, I'm going to make a connection here, because one of the interesting things is connecting all of the dots that exist, because you find that if you look at any plan, it almost always goes back to the same people. So the Spanish flu, for those who don't know, occurred in 1918 and 1919. It occurred right after World War I ended. And basically, at the time, a lot of people were dying, but really the cause wasn't known. And what is interesting about that is it wasn't until 1931 when a Rockefeller Foundation doctor actually looked at what had happened that they named it a flu and called it Spanish flu. So that connection that I'm making is to Rockefeller, because most of the events that happened in the early 19th century, or sorry, early 20th century, you can trace back to Rockefeller, and even things much closer to today trace back to the Rockefeller family. So that's that connection. But so getting back into what the flu actually was, there was a doctor by the name of Eleanor McBean. She was actually a child in 1918 and 19 when the supposed flu hit. But her parents were also doctors, and they did not believe in vaccination. And because they didn't vaccinate themselves, and they didn't vaccinate their child, Eleanor. Interestingly enough, they treated many people who were sick and never got sick themselves. So Eleanor grew up and ended up writing several books, but the one that I'm recommending here is one called Vaccination Condemned, where she basically spoke about how she felt anyway that it was actually the vaccinations that were killing people and making them sick. Because what happened is, after World War I ended and the soldiers came back from the war, the government came out and told people that there was a great risk of disease because of what the soldiers had been exposed to. So they kind of forced a mass vaccination campaign on the population. And that campaign occurred before people started getting sick and dying. And I believe that the quote flu killed about 50 million people worldwide. So it was a really bad pandemic. Now, another thing that I found by studying what goes on, especially in health, is that very often things that the medical community will attribute to one cause is often multiple causes. And I don't think the Spanish flu is any exception, because in addition to the vaccination campaign that occurred in 1918, there was also the advent of radio frequency. That's when radio was actually brand new. And another book that I'd recommend, which is a fabulous book, is called The Invisible Rainbow. That book was written by Arthur Furstenberg, and he basically studied the history and effects of EMF frequencies on the human body, starting with the advent of radio and going all the way up close to the modern day. So, interestingly enough, if you leave out the COVID pandemic, the two major pandemics that have occurred in the 20th century was, of course, the Spanish flu. And then, of course, there was the 1968 Hong Kong flu. Now, both of those occurred with major changes in EMF frequencies. As I said, radio waves in 1918 and 1968, there was a major change from, I believe, I forget exactly what the change was, honestly, off the top of my head, but there was a major change in frequency at that time as well. And of course, just to say one thing about the modern day, you know that the current pandemic occurred with 5G being introduced, so that may well have had something to do with it. But what was I going to say? So that is very interesting. There was a third thing too. I forgot about this. In 1918 and 19, they also forced mask wearing, as they have today. And one thing that I'll throw in is that Fauci actually had done a study in 2005, where he looked at the effects of mask wearing during the Spanish flu outbreak. And what he discovered is that some of the people that had died there died of bacterial pneumonia. Now, you can get bacterial pneumonia in different ways, but interestingly enough, when you breathe into a mask and bacteria get stuck in the mask, you can inhale that bacteria back into your lungs and get pneumonia. So that is another possible cause for the Spanish flu. I think that's about it for Spanish flu. Do you want to take a little break now?
Yeah, I mean, it's all good. I mean, we got a couple more topics, or I mean, I could kind of just let you free flow. Let me see what these guys got here on the chat. Will Smith must slap Chris because of the 5G. Well, yeah, I mean, I have John here, so I can't even entertain the foolery today, fellas. We're gonna have to be mature. So no, we're not gonna talk about random shit like Will Smith. He's talking about some very serious issues here. So yeah, be respectful, buddy. So yeah, they don't have any questions for you just yet, John. So I mean, you can go ahead and go into something else. I would like to hear your take on the divorce court and the unfair laws that seem to be disrupting a lot of the nuclear families today. I think that is very interesting. I know you have some personal experience with that also.
Yeah, I do actually. I mean, I'm actually going through a divorce right now, and yeah, the laws are quite unfair. Basically, especially, I mean, I can only really speak for New York. I don't know about divorce laws in other states, but for all intents and purposes, I have to give up 50% of my income to my ex, and for what? I mean, I worked, she didn't. And it really disrupts the family, and it also almost incentivizes women to go get a divorce in some respects, because, well, though, to be fair, if the woman is the breadwinner in the family, then that's actually going to hurt her, not the man. But in most cases, the man does make more, so it does tend, in most cases, to be more damaging to men.
Right. I mean, right now, I really think there's an obvious agenda at this point. I mean, I know there's an agenda with it, but I just think at this point it would have to be obvious, to people that, hey, something's going on here. They're definitely trying to break families up, to break marriages up. They're not trying to keep people married clearly.
No, absolutely. I mean, if you look at, you go back to the 1950s, and, everybody stayed married pretty much. Divorce was much less common. And, during the 60s and free love, they tried to separate sex and love. There's so many ways in which they've worked to destabilize, relationships, families, and also to take children away from their parents. People look at things like, earlier and earlier free education as being a good thing, but that's actually a bad thing, because what it is it's taking away the responsibility for parenting from parents and putting that responsibility on the state.
On the state,
and that's exactly what the state wants, because that's how they get power. Their basic motive is control the children, and you control the future.
I mean, well, that's what they've done here, and I guess the one that these guys can relate to is feminism. But I mean, feminism is low-hanging fruit. They've conditioned us in all areas of life. Just feminism is the one that's glaring out to guys because they're feeling the backlash of it more than anything else. But the same way these women come to you already brainwashed with that particular ideology, everything they think and believe was implanted in them at a very young age through the indoctrination system. We just don't realize it. We're not putting our finger on it or pinpointing it, but yes, it's every aspect of their life. So, for example, girls thinking that OnlyFans is like cool and okay and there's nothing wrong with it, well, that's what comes from this type of conditioning. Because if you spoke to women 30 years ago, they would be appalled at that concept. If you explain that concept to women, prior to 2010, they would have thought you lost your mind for even suggesting something like that. Do what? Show myself on the internet to strangers for $3 a month, for $10 a month? Like they wouldn't be able to wrap their head around that. Even slut walk, the concept of marching for your right to be a slut. There's no women that would have understood that or coincided with it or agreed with it or anything in the past. But why? Because they were conditioned differently. They were conditioned back then also, but they were conditioned differently. So it's not even a conversation of right or wrong or whatever. The point is that people think and believe what they were conditioned to. We've all undergone a form of brainwashing. Period.
Absolutely.
And and you see it when you have people nowadays that believe things that don't even make any sense. Like they obviously don't make any sense. When you have 18, 19, 20-year-olds that will argue with you about how many genders they are, to me that's a perfect example, because it's like, how could you even have that argument when a 5-year-old, 6-year-old understands that things are either male or female? There is no other options. You know what I mean? So that's how
we're actually having conversations today about how to define what a woman is. That's ridiculous.
Right. That's what I'm saying. But the point I'm making is how powerful the brainwashing is. When it can defy, observable reality. and have people not only seriously having these arguments and these discussions, but getting angry and getting triggered and becoming enemies of one another because they can't agree on these things. So really serious stuff here. So the indoctrination system was for just that, and separating the children from their parents at as early of an age as possible. That is exactly why they want to do that, because they understand that the earlier you get them is the more ridiculous of a notion you can get them to believe. So the next thing I want you to get into is a topic that you had here that concerns MK Ultra. And I think more and more people have heard of it nowadays, but I think that you'll give a little bit more information and insight onto exactly what was MK Ultra, what was their goal, and what was the scope of it.
Okay. Actually, there are really two things that go together here. It's both MK Ultra and Operation Mockingbird. They kind of work together.
Mm-hmm.
So I'll start with MK Ultra. MK Ultra was basically a mind control testing program that ran in the 1960s. I actually believe it runs to the modern day. Typically, these things are, at least when they're discovered, they say they shut them down, but they don't really. So MK Ultra basically was a program where they were really trying to figure out how to control people's minds, and this was during the free love and drug era of the 1960s. So they were basically trying to use drugs and trauma to basically bifurcate people's minds, so that they could actually implant suggestions into their brains and make them act in certain ways. I didn't actually write this down beforehand, but I'm going to suggest a movie anyway, which actually I watched very recently. It's called The Manchurian Candidate. It was actually made in the 1950s, 60s, and I believe there was a remake with Denzel Washington in 1980.
Oh, okay. I actually thought that was the original, but okay.
No, there was an earlier one. But anyway, The Manchurian Candidate is essentially about MK Ultra. It is about the brainwashing program and how it works and what happened. And I think that the movie, although of course it's a work of fiction, is very realistic in terms of the way they portray it. And so I think that's a really good movie to watch if you want to get an idea of the kind of mind control programming that was being used then, and as I said, probably is today. I'm just going to throw this in. I think a lot of today's A-list celebrities are mind controlled, from Britney Spears to Jay-Z and Beyonce, and I think there's a lot of mind control going on. And along with MK Ultra, they ran Operation Mockingbird, which basically it was a program where the CIA was placing journalists and news anchors into various media outlets so they could control the flow of information. Again, it was all about controlling how people perceive things, what they see, and what they believe is true. And if you can control the input of information to people, you control the output of how they behave. So that's what Operation Mockingbird was basically about. Interestingly enough, it was pointed out to me that if you look at Sean Hannity look at some pictures of Sean Hannity, you will of Fox News, you will actually see that he wears a CIA pin on his lapel in many pictures. So that's stunning to me that he would just do that in the open, but he does.
Yeah, he was also born into it. A lot of these people are born into it, believe it or not. So they're it's weird because they're doing it to their own people, their own children, and they're owned by the elites so much to the extent of their children are automatically owned by the elites as well. If you don't believe that, look at Will Smith and Jada's children. It's just amazing to me that people are so fucking blind to see these things. Look at D Wade and what he's doing with his children. You look at all the celebrities, and you don't see how they've offered their children up to the system. It's unbelievable.
I'll tell you, these people are totally perverted. They don't care. They're psychopaths, and they absolutely would sell their own children up the river. They don't care. I don't even think they're selling their children. I think that they never own their children to sell them. Think about it. If I own a dog, I own the puppies. As a breeder, that dog never owned its puppies. Those puppies were never the mother's. Those puppies were mine before they were even born. I own the mother. I paid for the stud.
So I'm just waiting on my product. I'm waiting on my puppies, and as soon as she's done breastfeeding, I'm taking those puppies and I'm selling them. I'm, doing whatever I want to do with them. They're mine, and that's exactly how the elites deal with these celebrities, these athletes, these actors, these politicians. Their children are already owned. The Paris Hiltons, the Kim Kardashians, they're already owned. And you watch Kim Kardashian and what she's doing with her children, and Kanye is desperately trying to interfere, and it's like, no, buddy, you knew what you were getting yourself into. These people own you, and they own your children as well. If they want your daughter on social media, your daughter will be on social media. You know what
That's
I mean?
right. They also have arranged marriages.
Right.
This is all of this stuff is planned top to bottom. Nothing is left to chance.
I mean, now is the time that we can get into the Will Smith thing. This guy was just blurting it out as a distraction, but it is connected in that sense, and that's what I was trying to tell people. One of the subs was like, oh, so you're trying to say that the slap was staged? I was like, dude, the entire scenario long before the slap was staged. Oh, so you think the controversy about Will Smith and Jada's marriage is staged? I'm like, bro, try to keep up. Try to keep up, because you're functioning with real low IQ right now. Try to keep up with what I'm saying. Will Smith and Jada is an arranged marriage. That means from when they met each other, it was arranged. From when they were introduced to each other, it was arranged from that point. You get what I mean? So before they were dating, before they were married, before they had children, it was already orchestrated from way back then. And it's just amazing to me how people can't see this for themselves. I mean, just look at the way the world functions. Look at every other example that you have, and how the fuck can you not connect these dots? Show me anywhere besides Hollywood. Show me anywhere besides celebrity where wealthy, successful men choose women their age with status. Where in the world do you see that? You don't find any wealthy, successful men, any men of high status, marrying women their age that also have some type of status. And we all know collectively that men do not care about women's status. They do not care about women's title. We do not care about women's income. We don't care how much money they make. In fact, that's actually a turnoff to a successful guy. Okay, most successful men will agree they want women that are available to them, not women that got their own celebrity going on, have their own status, have all this, busy doing all their kind of thing, and they don't care about them being, this icon, right, or this idol, right? And then also we know that older men with money are not going to be marrying women their age, women over 30, women in their 30s, women that have been passed around and dated other men of status. So all their past relationships are well documented in the public eye and in the media. Where else in the world, where else on the planet do you see wealthy guys picking those women? Anywhere else you see guys that have money, they're going to be taking on girls that are young and gorgeous. They're going to be marrying models. They're going to be, getting foreign girls from other countries that are exotic and beautiful, 10, 15 years younger than them. That is the pattern that you will see with guys that have money and status, right? But in Hollywood, you see a completely different pattern. Everybody in Hollywood somehow is paired up with another actress, with a singer, with some kind of artist, with some type of athlete. Everybody has to also be with someone of popularity. And we know that's not how human nature works, especially not males. Men don't operate that way, is what I'm trying to say. All right, so it's obviously arranged, is my point. They're obviously arranged relationships. There's no reason why these guys would want everyone to know who their women are. And also know the other guys that have been with their women. You think about that. You know how guys are about, the women that they choose to marry and have children with. So where else do you see guys choosing to marry and have children with women that have dated other men that they know in their social circle? Because all these guys know all the other guys that dated these women. You see what I'm trying to say? They all come across each other, right? Will Smith alone knows several different guys that have dated Jada at some point in time. Why would that be the case? Okay, you look at Sierra, you look at all these celebrities that are in celebrity relationships. Kanye West is a perfect example. You run out of fingers counting all the guys that have dated Kim Kardashian that have celebrity. You think Kanye doesn't run into those guys? You think he didn't meet those guys before he was with Kim? You think he doesn't see those guys after he's been with Kim? So why would he choose Kim to have children with? It doesn't make any sense. And then you look at Amber Rose. You really don't think that that was somehow planned? You don't think that that was orchestrated? So you mean to tell me that she was just a stripper in the club, then she dated Kanye West, then she had children by Wiz Khalifa, and the next thing you know, she's the poster girl for Slut Walk? And you don't see the connection here? You don't realize that the people that pulled the strings positioned her for a reason? They positioned her to be the mouthbox for a message? They literally built up her celebrity, and then they used her influence to get across an agenda, which is modern women, please choose to be sluts. We'll remove the shame for you, and we'll encourage you to go out here and be sluts. And then as soon as we get that step taken care of, then we're going to introduce OnlyFans. The infrastructure for it's already been built. And we've already did what we did to make it legal, to make it legal and socially acceptable. You really think that it wasn't a mission to make OnlyFans something that's legal? If you sit down and think about how many guidelines, how many laws, how many jurisdictions, how much shit had to be configured in the back end to make something like OnlyFans legal. Then you look at what had to be done to make Uber legal. A lot of people take Uber for granted. They don't realize how much had to be done for Uber to be something that could be legal. But the point is, they wanted it that bad. But why? Because they wanted Uber Eats. You see what I mean? People aren't following the dominoes. They think it's just about you getting a convenient, affordable cab from an everyday person. No. It's about everything being automated, everything just coming to your house, and then being able to control the delivery of that. Because
it's more than that.
No, that's what I'm saying. It's even more than that. For example, you don't have to wear a mask in your car, right? That person doesn't have to wear a mask. But with Uber, you have to wear a mask. They're not paying attention to the control mechanism. Because we started to rely on Uber, now they can tighten the grip on Uber, and they can influence everyone that needs to be transported through having leverage over just Uber. They don't have the leverage over us yet as individuals, but they have the leverage over Uber. So people aren't paying attention to the steps. This groundwork is being laid for an end game, and nobody is fucking looking more than one step ahead. Nobody. Everybody's playing checkers. So when you're an intelligent person, it's very frustrating and disappointing to look at your species and just think everybody's an idiot. You know what I'm saying? 90% of humanity are bumbling idiots because none of these people know how to play chess. Everybody is just stuck on 1, 2, 1, 2. One step. Everybody's stuck on one step. Nobody's looking down the hall and saying, this is where they're going with this. So when 10 years ago I can call out them trying to normalize pedophilia, and everybody looking at me like I'm crazy and be like, what are you talking about? You're not making any sense. I'm not making any sense? Fast forward 10 years and now Netflix has a show with little girls gyrating, half naked on Netflix. So I was wrong? So everything that I say, it's like I have to wait for people to catch up to what I'm saying because they can't see it coming until it's already slapping them in the face. They acknowledge it when everybody's in an uproar because they're trying to protest this show and have this show banned. And I'm looking at everybody like, it's too late, you fucking idiots. When I was trying to tell you a decade ago that they're going to normalize pedophilia, we need to do something now, nobody wanted to open their brain and pay attention to what I'm trying to show them, all these little strategic steps that are being taken. You see what I'm trying to say? They're already letting girls on OnlyFans that are under 18. You think they can't prevent that from happening? You think a fake ID is that effective? They could stop it, but the point is they want it to happen. You see what I mean? Just like the whole thing with the restroom. When that whole thing was going down with the I don't know, what were they calling it? Neutral gendered restrooms or whatever, when they were trying to let men into women's restrooms because they feel like a woman today. It's like
that's ridiculous.
Right. I'm looking at it, I'm thinking to myself, okay, where are they going with this? Because obviously it's going to create some issues. So are they trying to put cameras now in restrooms? Because fitting rooms and bathrooms are the only place that they legally can't put cameras right now. So if I know anything about how these people think, they're going to try to get it so that they can also put cameras in those places as well. They want everywhere to be surveillanced. You see what I mean? You got to look at the cause reaction. You see what I'm saying? They're trying to.
It's problem, reaction, solution.
Exactly. They're trying to create the issue so that they can manage and control the resolution. They're going to tell you, oh, we'll take care of it. Just like when they start blurting out defund the police. It's amazing to me that these people don't stop and think, time out. Who came up with this shit? Because it's a stretch to imagine that these people went from holding signs and wearing t-shirts talking about Black Lives Matters, which is a name they didn't even come up with. Think. Who's giving you these catchy ass names? That means somebody's already sitting down and deciding how to market this like a product. Okay, they have the advertisement team on it, the marketing team is on it. Okay, all right, it has to be colorful, guys, and it has to be catchy. Come on, let's think about it. All right, let's use an acronym. What about this? Okay, well, how about that? These people are sitting down thinking, how can we promote this like we do a fucking product? Like we do name brand designer clothing. But yet the people holding the signs and marching never stop to think, wait a minute, who's coming up with this catchy shit? Because it seemed to be so well packaged already. BLM, Black Lives Matter, and you had everything ready to go. So it's obviously an orchestrated plan is my point, right? And nobody's stopping and thinking, why is this shit so well planned out? When 9/11 happened, they already had a catchy name for it. Ooh, I know, September 11th, 9/11. Like, what the fuck? You got Hollywood marketing on it.
They came out and called it the new Pearl Harbor too.
That, you see what I'm trying to say? They had all this catchy stuff already created, right? During the pandemic, they told us that everything came to a halt, everything came to a timeout during the lockdown, right? This is how little independent thought and deductive reasoning the average person uses. So you're telling me that cars stopped being produced, products stopped being produced, all this stuff stopped being produced for a period of time, but as soon as the lockdown was over, they had all of this marketing and all these displays ready for the new rules and restrictions and mandates. You go to T-Mobile, they have all these cute, colorful pink signs with logos on it for the mask, logos on it for social distancing. Who designed this shit? I'm an artist. I know this doesn't happen overnight. So who sat down and did all of the designing and all the marketing and all the branding for all these signs that were going to be in all these T-Mobiles throughout the whole damn country? You know how many T-Mobiles there are in the country? So you mean to tell me that there was no production of these materials, but yet right out of the lockdown, you already was locked and loaded and had all these shipments to go out to all the T-Mobile locations so that everywhere can have all their stickers and all their signs and everything ready to go. All these little stickers on the floor, you know, telling you where to walk and where to step. Starbucks had all their marketing with the mermaid 6 feet distance. You had the mermaid with the mask.
They had it ready beforehand.
That's what I'm trying to tell you. And what kills me is that this is not obvious to the everyday person. This is how dumbed down they've made the population that you can't even do that simple dot connecting, like time out, this shit's not adding up. These things take time. If you've ever, I used to be an intern, and I remember I came up with an idea. What rappers was it? Who were these Philly rappers at the time? Beanie Siegel and whatever other rappers. I forget the name of the little group that comes out of Philly. And I had an idea for marketing. Their album was coming out, and I went to the head of the label. I said, I got an idea, Eureka. He said, what's your idea? I said, for marketing, since we're in Philly, these artists are from Philly, what we should do is we should put the marketing for the album on the wrapping paper for Philly cheesesteaks. So that when people buy their sandwiches or whatever, the wrapping paper for it is going to be all the marketing for the upcoming album and project. They said, that's a great idea, get on it. I'm like, what you mean? They're like, get on the phone, make it happen, figure out how much it's going to cost per sandwich wrapping paper. From that experience, I know how much time in advance you need to order something like that. Just simple wrapping paper for a sandwich with the wax on it, with those logos and that information printed on it. How much time in advance you need for a company to be able to produce that in the quantity that you need in time. So that's what I'm trying to say is it's simple thinking. You would figure out that this is not what they tell us. And it's not about knowing the truth. It's not about figuring out the answer. It's not about being psychic. It's about simply being intelligent enough to tell when you're being lied to. That's the thing, and that's the part that frustrates me with people. I don't want you to understand what happened with 9/11. You're not supposed to say, "Oh, I know what happened," because then you're just a conspiracy theorist when you presume to know what happened. It's not that I know what happened; it's that I know they're lying. I know what they said happened didn't happen. That I know. What really happened? No, I don't know what really happened. But I know the story that they gave is impossible.
And I remember watching it the day that it happened, the morning that it happened. I remember where I was. I had just left that area. I literally had just left that area because Penn Station is close to that area. And the only reason why I made it on the bus on time is because I don't wait on lines. So I folded up a $10 bill in the palm of my hand, and it was like the time when kids be going back to college. I went to some kids that were in the front of the line for the Greyhound, and I shook the kid's hand. He felt the money in between my hand and his hand, and I said, "Hey man, thanks for holding my space in line." That's why I was able to make it on that bus. And that bus left at 12:30 in the middle of the night. If I didn't make it on that bus, I would have had to get on the next bus, which was like 7:45, 8 o'clock in the morning. That would have put me right at the time that 9/11 happened. I would have been right in that area dealing with that chaos, right? So I remember watching on the news, and when I watched it, I thought to myself, this is not what they're saying. I'm looking at how the buildings are collapsing. I'm like, that's not how I've done demolition. That's not how they're gonna fall. The buildings would not fall like that, right? Also, where's the plane debris? There would be people taking parts of the plane as souvenirs. That's human nature, okay? If you look at any other country where something like that actually happened, you would see kids digging through the rubble and taking home wings and parts of the plane as souvenirs. They'd be making clubhouses and shit out of the wing, all right? So at this point, they can tell us anything, we're gonna believe them. It's pretty disappointing. But anyhow, let me see what's going on here in the chat. Let me see if they got any questions for you. All right, what do you know about the cause of the sexual revolution? Well, I think he kind of just explained that to you. It's all about brainwashing, but I guess go ahead and touch on that. Bruno wants to know, what do you think was their reasoning behind the sexual revolution?
I mean, the reason behind the sexual revolution was basically to weaponize, the sexual relationship between men and women to get them to basically not be able to get along as well. It was to destabilize the family. It was about separating kids from two-parent households so that the kids would be more vulnerable to brainwashing. There was a lot of things. I think that part of the sexual revolution was also to separate the sex act from love, so that people didn't associate sex with love. Sex was one thing, love was another. So and that kind of led to a breaking up of marriages and relationships, and you kind of had a disappearance of two parent households. Also, you had kind of an this kind of went along with it, an alienation of parents from their children as they got older. In the 1950s and 1940s, a lot of grandparents would live with their children at the end, and you would have multiple generations within one household. That doesn't happen anymore. So the ability of the young to learn from the old has been taken away. So it really served many purposes.
Yeah, no, I agree 100% that that's something I noticed growing up, because I was so much into old people. I spent so much time with my grandparents, and my grandparents were like super fucking popular, amongst people their age. So they had a lot of friends. My grandfather had a lot of friends. So I was always around people his age, and always in their conversations, listening to what they had to say about the civil rights movement, what they had to say about past presidents, and the different campaigns that they ran, and so on and so forth. So I got a completely different perspective. And then when I would try to have these discussions with people my age, it was like literally like talking to animals. I felt like I was talking to squirrels and shit. I was like, you know what, this is like, it's a waste of fucking time. You guys don't have any base reference of any of this shit. And then it makes sense, because you don't have your dad in your life, and you don't have your grandfathers in your life. So what where would how would you know any of this? So that's how things were passed on for 100%, 90% of human history. Everything was oral tradition. So when you break that, kids only have Google, and that's why I think young people nowadays are so brain dead, because it's all about Google. When I'm in the grocery store or wherever, the cashier can't make change for shit. When I give them change, they're looking at me stupid, like, why did you give me this change? It's like, dumbass, you could give me a solid $1. They can't do the math in their head. I remember some Jamaican chick told me in like TJ Maxx or Ross, I bought something, and then like the change, I think was like, the change was something like $43, something like that. And I gave her the difference so that she could give me a solid bill. And she was like, what do you want me to do with that? And I was like, yo, so that you give me some. She said, I don't understand that. I don't know maths. I said, listen, first of all, how is it that you could be a cashier and you don't know maths? And the word is math. The word is math, ma'am, not maths. And I was like, how could you possibly be a cashier and you don't know math? She's like, that's not my job. I said, that's exactly what the job of a cashier is. What the fuck are you talking about? That's precisely what a cashier's job is to understand math. But this is where the young people are nowadays. They can't figure anything out for themselves. They have to rely on some type of technology. And when it comes to thinking, they rely on being told what to think, being told what to believe. Okay? There's no go figure it out for yourself from life experiences or from older people that you can trust. Your grandparents aren't going to be lying to you and misleading you and manipulating you, but the media is. So when you talk to young women, they get their understanding of how things were in the past from academia. So you mean to tell me 40-something-year-old professors or who are explaining to you how things were in the 40s, 50s, and 60s? You're telling me how your grandparents were and your great-grandparents were based on what your professor told you. Why are you not reading things that your grandparents and great-grandparents wrote? Why are you not in the photo albums? Why was this not passed down in your family? Why didn't your family tell you what the relationship of your ancestors was like? I don't need a professor to tell me that my grandfather was oppressing my grandmother. I was there. He wasn't oppressing her. He was providing for her. You know what I mean? And I know the relationship of their parents was like because they told me. My grandparents told me what their parents' relationships were like. But if you talk to these young women, according to them, men were abusing and oppressing women, 50, 60 years ago.
That's because they were able to change history by getting rid of the oral tradition.
Right, that's what I'm saying. Once you get the fathers out of there, you can say anything.
And by the way, the other thing is, if you look at Alexa today, what do you think that is? Alexa is simply a way of getting people to ask questions where there's only one answer.
Yep. You ask who Jesus is, and it's amazing what that thing tells you. It's amazing what that thing tells you. Wow.
I would never ever own an Alexa. And by the way, in addition to being
it's eavesdropping on you.
Well, that's what I was going to say. In addition to being a single source of information, which doesn't give you any perspective whatsoever on whatever you ask it, it is also listening to every word you say.
Yep, every word.
And transmitting it to others. Yeah,
basically, and it's also putting you on a list. It's putting you on a list of, based on the type of conversation you're having and what you believe, and it's also keeping a nice little record of who you associate with. Yeah, so it's doing all those things, all those things. You're basically just letting Big Brother in your house willingly. And that's the game that they play nowadays. They get you to do everything willingly, right? Everything they get your consent.
Well, they do that by basically using the idea that they're making things easier for you. Everything
right, convenience.
To make life easier for you.
Mm-hmm.
And you know what? If you honestly believe that the government and corporations are out there just trying to make things easier, oh God, please wake up.
Yeah, I'm telling you, bro. Everything is like it's very, very, very orchestrated, and they're definitely got this locked down. I mean, they got it to the point where they don't really have to worry about a resistance, a rebellion, or any type of pushback. People are, I think, the most docile that they're going to be. I don't think they're going to be any more docile than they are. Because people are pretty much cowards nowadays, so they're not gonna fight back or anything like that. We've come so accustomed to comfort. I mean, comfort is our priority now, being comfortable. So, with that being said,
I want to get into one more thing before we end. So go ahead.
No, I was just saying, they've got it to the point where everybody's gonna kind of, play by the rules and keep their mouth shut because they don't want to lose their toys. Like the joke is, if you want to discipline your teenagers, just take away their iPhone. It's like, bitch, please. If you want to punish anyone, you take away their iPhone. Stop acting like that's an age thing or that's for children. If you take away an adult's iPhone, you know what I mean? They're going to be going through it. You take away internet service, and grown men will cry. So, I mean, they've got us by the balls now, and that is not something that I figured out originally on my own. I read long ago that was their goal, to make everything so comfortably convenient that all you would have to do to control people is just simply threaten to take away some of that comfort and convenience. That's it. That's all you got to do. And people are like, okay, I'll do what you're. I mean, look at what they're doing with the vax, with the jab. You know, you can't travel, you can't go here, you can't do this. I mean, in the future, it's simply going to be you can't sit, you know, in the cool kids section if you don't have this. You can't come into the part with the AC if you don't have this. You can't eat the good food if you don't have this. You're not allowed in this mall if you don't have this. You can't go watch this new movie, Avengers 4, you know, if you don't have this. That's what it's going to be in the future, I promise you. Remember Allende said this, okay? I guarantee you by the time Avengers 4 come out, you're going to need to get vaxxed to go to the theaters if you want to see Avengers 4. That's how they're going to play the game. What did you want to close out with?
I just wanted to close out with a little bit of a talk about a guy named Yuri Besmanoff, who he was, just to tell you a little bit about who he was a KGB agent in the 1970s, and he emigrated to the U.S. He basically escaped Russia. And in the 1980s, he gave a series of talks where he was talking about how communists take over. And basically what he was saying is they use something called ideological subversion, or they also call it active measures. And it takes place in 4 stages. Those 4 stages are demoralization, which typically demoralization can take 15 to 20 years to occur. And the reason that is they go through through several generations of young kids to basically continually pound them with a certain mindset. After that, they go through destabilization, where they basically, after they've demoralized people, then they destabilize things. Destabilization, you know, is things like ruining the family, you know, just throwing things at people that destabilize them, make them unsure, lack confidence, you know, that kind of thing. After that comes crisis.
And that's where we are now. That's the step we're at now.
No, we're past crisis right now. But but anyway, crisis is next. And crisis is basically can be short. I mean, it can be as short as 6 weeks. So crisis could be a war. It could be, you know, a pandemic. It could be, you know, anything.
Food shortages.
Food shortages, exactly. All of those things would qualify as crises. And then after that, the final stage, which is where I think we are now, is called normalization, where basically they try and take all those changes and act as if those are now normal.
Exactly. I remember that interview. I vividly remember that interview.
Yeah, I would highly recommend for anybody listening who's interested to go back, you know, do a search for Yuri Besmanoff and listen to his interviews. It is stunning how what he talks about, remember that this is back in the 1980s when a lot of this stuff hadn't happened yet, has come true today. He basically laid out the plan for what was about to come. So, I mean, that is a fabulous interview. I mean, there's several of them. But
I love that interview. I just couldn't stop making fun of his accent. Right now, what they're doing is subversion. And you find these in many developed countries in the United States of America. And they will, and always have, it's hilarious, bro. Let's get to some of these questions because they're building up. So try to fire them off. Question for John: how are our politicians chosen, assuming voting is pointless?
Well, you know what? I like the question because you're right. Voting is pointless. Basically, politicians are chosen by their allegiance to the moneyed interests. You know, more and more, you don't get elected unless you raise a lot of money. So that gives control to the wealthy elite to basically decide who gets to run and who doesn't. So basically, that's how politicians are chosen. And I do not trust any politician. I don't care what party they're from. This is not a right-left thing, because this is a 2 wings of the same bird thing. Because in the end, Democrats, Republicans, they're all the same. They're all backstage, you know, plotting how to run their puppet show, so to speak.
Right. Okay. The next one is, let me see. All right. You already answered what you thought was the cause of the sexual revolution. Let's see. David the Conqueror. Is there anything an individual can do to save themselves, others, or are things too far gone in America?
That's a tough question. I don't think things are too far gone. I mean, it's going to be hard. When we talk about demoralization, I'm getting back into Yuri for a minute. But once people get to the point where they're demoralized, you can pretty much show them any information and they won't believe it. And that's the problem with demoralization. So you have to kind of work back against that. So I think that in order to educate people and to get them to see what's going on, the best way to do that is not to tell them what's happening, but to make them question it for themselves. Ultimately, there's a lot of power in asking questions. You ask a question, and the natural response of a person in their head is going to be to think, what's the answer? So that immediately flips a switch towards critical thinking.
I'm glad you said that.
What?
I'm glad you said that. I'm going to use that advice when I'm talking to women. Instead of like preaching to them, I'm going to just ask them questions and step back and let their little gears in their head start moving and their pretty little head. Next,
Absolutely.
Logic Win says John is fire. John, you mentioned that celebrities are mind controlled. Do you attribute the many mysterious celebrity deaths like Prince, Michael Jackson, Paul Walker, etc., as blowbacks for refusing the mind control?
That's a good question too. Honestly, I'm not sure. I mean, certainly they could be. You'd have to do some investigation into each individual death and kind of see if there was any way in which the celebrity was speaking out, talking back. I will say in the case of Prince had really put it out there in terms of the chemical spraying into the skies, the
chemtrails.
So he had put that out there. So I would say that is a reason why they might wanted to have gotten rid of him. But I think it's an individual case-by-case basis. I don't necessarily think that every celebrity death is because they spoke out and got killed. I also think sometimes celebrities may have been fake murdered, so to speak, to take them out of the public eye. That's another thing that they do. I'll tell you, I don't think Jeffrey Epstein is dead.
Right. I
really don't.
I mean, I definitely think there's always foul play with these people. I really do. I mean, the Prince thing, what is it, just coincidental that there was some chemtrail thing going on? Also, Prince outsmarted them and was able to keep majority of his masters. I know they don't like being beat at their own game. Then you have Michael Jackson, who also was able to beat them out of a lot of the masters. I know Elton John owned most of his shit, but Michael was also able to outsmart the system in a lot of ways, and they didn't like that. Paul Walker was on record for saying he wanted to leave Hollywood and didn't want to act anymore, which is interesting because it's like, well, who's forcing you to keep on acting? So I think that's pretty interesting, the timing with that. And here's a little something that probably most of you have never even heard. The Kobe Bryant thing was real interesting because it was not only prophesized. There were people that predicted that he was going to die with something to do with a plane or a helicopter. And then also a lot of people don't know, because they went through a lot of effort to hide this, what I'm about to tell you next. Kobe Bryant was in the midst of a very, very nasty lawsuit battle with major pharmaceutical companies because they had a fat burner out called Black Mamba, and that's his nickname, has always been his nickname, and he was basically trying to say, listen, you guys can't use this name because it's so closely associated with me. And he was actually in the process of winning that case for the majority, and then they weren't playing fair. These people never are going to play fair. They're going to use their money and their influence. And when the case started swaying more their way, Kobe turned it up a notch, and he started coming out with evidence to prove that they were using several ingredients that were actually illegal. Here's the thing, though. Those ingredients were also present in a lot of their other major money-making drugs that didn't have anything to do with fat loss or anything that was vanity, based like that. So if he was able to win with that element, he actually would have put that pharmaceutical company out of business because they would have had to take several other, highly lucrative drugs off of the market for containing those ingredients. And we're talking about billions of dollars. So if you think they're not going to make somebody disappear for that kind of money, whether he's Kobe or not, he's somebody that's preventing them from making that type of money on that magnitude. I'm from Brooklyn. I'm from a place where I've literally seen people get killed over $100. So there's no doubt in my mind that they wouldn't make someone disappear for a certain number. But, anyhow, I'm, encouraging you guys to look into that. If you think that that's bullshit, go look into it. And you'll be surprised to see that, yes, Kobe was in a very interesting case over his name being used on a fat burner. But look, yeah, but anyhow, like I said, look into it and see what you come up with. And then there's also a lot of interesting details about the pilot and what was going on with that around the time, just like there's a lot of interesting details around the Aaliyah flight and what was going on with her pilot and what was going on with that. So it's just interesting how there's all this other stuff that has always seemed to be happening in those situations that are out of the order, that the media never actually brings up. So it's funny how we had so much around Kobe, but they never brought up that he was in that case. You see what I'm trying to say? Or they never brought up that Aaliyah's pilot was coked up. They never brought this stuff up, that he actually was suspended at the time that he was flying that damn plane. He was never even supposed to be flying that plane. He was hand-selected for a reason. I wonder why. Okay, so let's get a couple more of these questions out of the way before I let you go. John, I'm very sorry to hear about your divorce. For the purpose of helping men in the chat, were there any red flags that your ex displayed that you should have paid more attention to in hindsight?
Well, basically, it was very clear for me. It's not about red flags. It's simply about, I found out that my wife had been cheating on me for 8 years. So, that was enough for me. I wouldn't really call it red flags, though. But I would also say I married the wrong person, and I think that looking back on it, that she was a gold digger. It was just, something that I didn't pick up on.
Well, it happens to the best of us. Okay, here I also have, let me see, what is this guy saying? Okay, I hear what you're saying, but my question is, who does this benefit? Why would the elites do this to weaken their own country? Seems like cutting off the nose to spite the face. No, Peter, Peter, you're operating under the wrong pretense. Who said that the elites were nationalists? Who said that the elites were patriotic? Who said the elites had any type of loyalty or connection to a particular country? You got that all fucked up. That's not how the elites operate, bro. They run the world. They don't operate in a country. The elites aren't American, or they're not French. They're not Italian. Okay, they're bloodlines that have been running through the entire world, manipulating and controlling the effects on the grand scale, on the main stage. So, first of all, they don't even operate under those imaginary lines that are drawn up to separate nations, bro. They're the ones that create those imaginary lines. They don't follow those imaginary lines. Oh man, go ahead, John.
Yeah, exactly. Those lines that are drawn, these nationalistic lines, are drawn for the purpose of being able to create wars. I mean, how do you get one group of people to fight against another if they don't have an allegiance to the place where they live? Right. So it's really, the elites are worldwide. They don't give a damn about any particular country. They put one against the other. I mean, they made the United States the world power that it became. Now I think they're shifting the power to the east because they want the power. The power shift is going to go towards Russia and China now. But it's all orchestrated. It has nothing to do with nationalism. It has nothing to do with my people, your people. The only people they care about are their own bloodlines. That's it. If you're not in their bloodline, you're not their people. It's that simple.
Exactly. That's all there is to it, man. You guys got to open up your minds, bro. You can't be thinking within the same context of which they've enslaved your mind. You can't use. It's like what this dude said. You can't solve a problem with the same thinking that got you in the problem in the first place, bro. Believing in the concept of countries is how we got into this. Like, you can't think that they're in that bubble with us, bro. If they're enslaving us through lack of knowledge, then how the fuck are you going to operate with a lack of perspective? You have to have the perspective they have to understand their agenda. Okay, the people are lost. Exactly. Okay, C-Banks. Go ahead.
I just want to mention one thing quickly. I'm going to lose power on my phone soon, so I don't have that much longer.
Oh, you didn't have a power source to plug in there?
No, I wasn't plugged in. I didn't realize we were going to go this long.
Oh, okay. Well, no worries. Let's just get through these questions, and we're going to wrap it up anyway because the lives are going to be a lot shorter. I'm trying to keep them to like an hour and 30 tops, and we're at an hour and 14 minutes right now. Okay, so real quick, they just put...
I might have 5 to 10 more minutes, just so you know.
Okay, yeah, that works. They just put in the new justice, and she was giving light sentences on pedophilia. Well, I mean, I'm not surprised. The people that pull strings are all into that. That's part of their little initiation and cult or whatever.
I think that what we should talk about at some point in the future is the whole history of where this all comes from, how it connects to Satanism, Freemasonry, the Illuminati, and what their values and motivations are, because pedophilia absolutely plays into where they're going. Pedophilia, child trafficking, all of that stuff relates to the kind of stuff.
Well, you saw the statue that they put up of Baal. So if you don't know anything about Baal, I mean, that's why he has a little boy and a little girl on his lap. But like I said,
there's also the Baphomet, which is both male and female.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Right. Yeah, we're gonna get into that, but it's gonna be on Patreon. I need to keep my YouTube channel, brother. So that stuff definitely is gonna have to go on another platform behind the paywall. Okay, great question. You think the elites would be more powerful, wealthy when things are stable? Well, I'm not sure how that question is supposed to be phrased, but there is no sway of the power. There's no difference in their power based on the condition that we're in. The elites have ultimate power and control over everything. They control all the resources. They control all the information. They control all the land, all the currency. So logic wins. What are you talking about, bro? It doesn't matter what happened. They have full control then. They have full control now. They've had full control for whenever was the last reset up until now. They've had full control. Okay, and they've been working diligently to take away the independence of the average human being. That's why they've done away with local farmers. That's why they've done away with that oral tradition being passed down. This is why they've made collecting rainwater illegal, why owning livestock is illegal. They've gone out of their way to make us 100% dependent on them because they control all the air, food, water, and land. So there is no fluctuation in their power, guys. Come on, you guys got to try to keep up with what we're saying. I don't think you get the magnitude of it. All right, defund the police, more crime, lower poverty values, so the rich can. Okay, all right. Let me stop you there, Logic, because again, you're going down the wrong path. You're trying to oversimplify these things. Okay, again, that's checkers right there. Thinking, okay, defund the police means more crime. Let me let you in on something, bro. It's way more complex than that. Defunding the police is not going to cause more crime. Defunding the police is going to eradicate crime. There is going to be no more crime. Now, let me explain why. So you get it and you start learning how to get your wavelength on the right frequency to figure out what's going on with the world, bro. Defunding the police is not as simplistic as they made it sound, like, oh, we're just going to fire police officers and there's going to be less cops. What defund the police means, it's code for we're not going to pay human beings a salary anymore. We're going to invest the budget into AI. So what's going to happen is they're going to have robots, okay, as police. So when you see movies like RoboCop and stuff like that, it's called predictive programming. Hollywood is not here to entertain you. I'm going to repeat it 2 more fucking times because I need people to get this shit through their head. You guys do not get it. Hollywood is not here to entertain us. Hollywood is not here to entertain us. It's here to control and brainwash us. It's to control our perception of reality and prepare our subconscious for what they're ushering in so we do not resist. Okay? Professional sports are not here for competition. They're not here so we can see who's the best football player. Okay? They're here to keep the people distracted and docile. All right? Bread and circus, nothing has changed since ancient Rome.
A lot of professional sports is actually fixed too.
No, it's always fixed. Just like back in the gladiatorial times, in ancient Rome, it was fixed back then also. All right? So I just said, it's not about competitiveness. It's not about who's better, who's worse. It's not about sportsmanship. Okay? It's about distracting the public with low vibration food and low vibration entertainment so that they are not paying attention to more important issues. You see how we have food shortages and fuel shortages coming, but people are concerned with Will Smith slapping Chris Rock. People are concerned with an actor slapping a comedian over a whore. Okay, that's where our attention is right now, and we're going into some very trivial times. All right, so let's get back to the defund the police real quick because I want you to understand what this is about because you people are so way off with this shit. Defunding the police is about convincing us that we cannot trust human beings to police us. Therefore, we accept and damn near ask for them to give us a better alternative, which will be AI. Because you can't convince people that AI is racist. You can't say, oh, the AI arrested me because I'm black. The AI shot me because I'm black. So what they're going to do is they're going to replace human beings with robots now, and now crime will cease to exist because you won't be able to get away with anything, because the machines are going to be programmed with an algorithm that literally knows how to predict your behavior. Okay, the algorithm is going to predict the crime before it even happens. So that's the answer. That's the answer to that logic. All right, and if you don't think that's real, do some research, because they already got them. In certain cities, states, they already got them. I know New York has them, and shit, the day before yesterday in Miami, I saw one, the little fucking robot rolling down the damn street. So they already fucking have them, bro. In certain supermarkets in New York, they already have AI. They already have a little bot that goes around the grocery store and it will catch your ass if you steal something, if you shoplift. And the robot analyzes your body language and your behavior to tell if it checks your heart rate and everything. It knows if you're nervous. It knows if you're scared. It knows if you're hiding something. It could tell when you're like looking to your left, looking to your right, trying to see if you're being watched, which is shoplifting behavior. So the machine already profiles you before you even do the fucking crime. And the fucking face recognition, they perfected it through Facebook, because everybody offers up their pictures and offers up their information on social media. So what they were using that whole tagging technology for on Facebook was so that everybody's face is registered and documented in the database. So now, anytime you go into a store, they already know your record. So when you walk into Walmart or whatever, if you've shoplifted in the past, they already know, because the system has already identified you through your face recognition. And this is not new shit.
I was gonna say, this is all preparing us for social credit scores.
Yeah, which they already have in China and India. But when I was telling people it was going to happen 5-6 years ago, what did they tell me? I was crazy. I didn't know what I'm talking about. But we already have it in 2 major countries that have a huge population. India and China both have a higher population than America, which means they've already perfected the technology in areas with a higher population than America, so that when it rolls out in America, there will be no bugs in the system. Come on, man. The Most High put me here for a reason, because I called too much of this shit way before it happened. What he just said, that's what the average person thinks when they hear defund the police. When I heard defund the police, I immediately knew it's not about what they're doing, it's about what they're going to replace it with. If they're telling you they're going to take something out of the system, what you have to start thinking is, well, what are you going to replace it with? Latina X is another one. I'm not sure what you're talking about there. Thinking outside the box becoming more and more obsolete. Thinking in general is becoming obsolete. Yes, I agree with that. Logic wins. True. I was like, Latina X, what the hell does that mean? That term came out of nowhere. Yeah, all of these terms come out of nowhere because they already have them prepackaged and ready to go. They know how to appeal to the people, and the people eat it up. Slut walk. You see what I mean? Like, they already had this shit put together, and then you act like it's like they came up with this shit on their own. No, they just put somebody that's popular and influential there, and you buy into that person as a fan. Shaking my head, to hell with Alexa. John, given the current state of the world, how do you prevent yourself from becoming a nihilist? What gives your life purpose and contentment despite how bad things are?
That's a good question. Honestly, what gives my life purpose and contentment is doing what I'm doing right now, just trying to wake people up, trying to make a difference. You know, it seems like a battle that can't be won, but I actually think it's a battle that we've already won. It just hasn't happened yet.
Okay, let me see what else they got here for you. All right, this says, I never took that BS. No, that's not a question. I hate to say it, but it's over. No, it's not over, brother. The world has been a lot worse in previous times in history. We got to keep pushing. The end is here. The game is the mark of the beast. Well, that's always going to be with us. That's the truth right now. Reduced to a QR code. I'm not sure what that means. That interview with Yuri says it all. I don't know. Oh, with Yuri, yeah, he did put a lot out. I'm definitely checking out that interview. Emasculate the men, yeah, so that there's no resistance. The game is rigged. Feminize the men, I should say. Yep, make them nice and soft. Thank you for the answers, John. Pay to play. I'll definitely look into the Kobe stuff. Yes, very suspicious. Elite is worldwide. Damn right. And it actually goes further than the continents that they tell you about. There's more than 7 continents, and there's actually only 6 according to what they describe. Europe is not a fucking continent. It's crazy that they got people to agree to that when the definition on a continent is clear and Europe does not fit that description. But in any event, there are more continents than that. They're just not part of our I don't know if you want to call it realm or our sector or whatever, but there are definitely
They're not part of our reality.
Right, exactly. There are different land masses for sure. Damn good point. Reframed how I see the situation. My mind is blown right now. Good. Mind blown emoji. So the Ed 209 will be real. You know what? Real quick, John, I have a question for you. Are you familiar with Agenda 2030, which at one point was Agenda 2020, and then I guess they kind of moved it up 10 years?
Well, actually, it was Agenda 21 originally, which was the agenda for the 21st century, and then they didn't move it up. They just added things and made it Agenda 2030. I am somewhat familiar. Basically, I mean, it is their plan for how they want to control everything. You know, it feeds into the World Economic Forum and what they basically talk about. You know, by 2030, you'll own nothing and be happy, from, you know, Klaus Schwab. Anybody who wants to know what the elites are planning, basically just go to the World Economic Forum website and read what they're talking about. Because the amazing thing about this is they tell you exactly what they're going to do. It's just people are not listening.
Yeah, I mean... they really aren't listening. I mean, they're not, you know, these people are not interested in what's going on. But Agenda 2030, that is some mind-blowing shit. It's just mind-blowing on the span of what they think that they're going to pull off. And I mean, they're obviously confident they can do it. But these people really think that they can count every bumblebee on the planet, every blade of grass, every peanut, every mouse, every chicken. And I mean, it sounds crazy, but it's not when AI is implemented. When AI is implemented, they will be able to count every specific object and species on the planet down to a number. And that's what they want to do. They want to have full inventory, just like it, a store owner wants to have full inventory of his store. Facts, desensitization, and rigged games. Appreciate the info, INA. Minority Report. Yep, I live in NYC. Yeah, these are all predictive programming. All these movies are just trying to predict program us to expect these changes. What's going to happen to all the people who lose their jobs over AI and robots? There's going to be no middle class, bro. There's going to be no middle class.
Partly that's true, but also they plan to eliminate a lot of the population.
Yeah, definitely. They're going to die.
People at all.
Yeah, they're going to die off. A lot of people are going to die off, and they're making people sterile on the low. You know what I'm saying? The birth rate is dropping. You know, it's plummeting. So, and they're doing it.
Testosterone levels in men are at all-time lows.
Yeah, I dropped a video on that too. But see, what they're doing is they're starting in the poor countries first, like India and Africa's a continent. So throughout Africa as well as like India, so they're starting in the poorest nations with the highest population as far as sterilizing the people. So they go in there and they say that, hey, they're giving free medical, free healthcare or whatever. And what they're doing actually is sterilizing the people so that they can't have children and reproduce, so that 10, 15, 20 years from now, those populations will drop dramatically, and then they'll start gradually working on like the Western populations and stuff like that. But they're taking out the indigenous poverty first. Great discussion, fellas. Yeah, I wish that we were able to promote it more and get more people in, but I think this video is going to do well on the playback. Platinum, you're assuming the people that created the AI care about people's jobs. Well, exactly. They never cared. First of all, people don't need to work. Let me let you guys in on another jewel. Human beings don't need to work to survive. The only reason why we think we have to work is because we need money to pay for things. And the only reason why we need money to pay for things is because it requires energy to produce things. And the only reason why we think that we need to pay for energy is because they've convinced us that free energy doesn't exist. So look how many layers you have to peel back to get to the source of our slavery. That one lie has enslaved us. That one lie being that energy needs to be created, produced, and therefore paid for when energy is actually flowing through the atmosphere. And all these ancient societies knew that because they harnessed free energy. Now they have us thinking that all these modern things they're coming out with are new technology. The electric car is not new technology, but they've convinced us that Tesla just figured out how to make cars that could do 100 plus miles per hour on a battery. They had that before the combustion engine, right? They have you now putting your phone and your tablet on a platform to charge with no wires, just literally coming close to an object and charging the phone, and you're thinking, wow, this new technology that doesn't require a wire. Bro, they never needed wires to harness electricity. In fact, what they invented was the wires so that they could charge you for it and control where it goes and count how much you're using. So that's what Nikola Tesla was employed by Thomas Edison to do, was figure out how to harness the electricity in a way that Thomas Edison could monetize it. So basically, when you have that little meter outside of your house that counts how much electricity you're using, that's their contribution to electricity. It wasn't discovering it. They already knew that it existed. They just didn't know how they could charge people for it because it flowed freely through the ether. Now, think about this for a minute. If electricity and other forms of energy are free, then do you realize how dramatically the price of things would drop? Majority of what we pay for things is to subsidize for the cost of the energy to make it, right? So imagine if you didn't have to pay for gas. Imagine if you didn't have to pay for electricity. And imagine if the companies that made things didn't have to pay for it either. Imagine if there was no power bill to run all the agricultural equipment that creates our food. So in other words, we would be able to live off a barter system, or everybody would hardly be having to go to work. But what they wanted was to create a system where everyone is constantly working, because that's how you keep people enslaved, because they don't have time to think. They don't have time to reach higher levels of vibration and spirituality because they're too busy trying to pay their fucking bills on time. That's also why people can't parent their children and make a connection, because you got to keep food on the table and keep the lights on. So that's...
It's also another way they keep us distracted.
Right. Do you ever?
The more they keep us running around, the less time we have to actually look at things.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Do you ever think cyber attacks will happen soon? Absolutely, they're already planning them. CBD will eliminate middle class money. I'm not sure what that means. CBDC will eliminate middle class money. Well, I mean, everything they're doing is going to eliminate the middle class.
By the way, CBDC is central bank digital currency, so yes, it will.
Yeah, I mean,
in fact, central bank digital currency is what they're trying to get to. That's why they brought Bitcoin out to begin with. Bitcoin, I don't believe actually that Bitcoin was ever there to be the savior and the way to get us away from the central banking system. I think it was actually the way that they put out there to lure us into their own version of central bank digital currency.
Okay. I mean, that's really depressing how they've been controlling the bank, bro. I mean, that's some really depressing shit. You know, sorry, I was just setting up a live stream tomorrow with this gorgeous girl, but she's, you know, engaged, man. You know, gotta be respectful, but she's one beautiful sister. Try to get her on at noon so we can just get a little bit more. Because we love you, John. You're very insightful, very knowledgeable, but you're just not that cute. You're not that sexy. So gotta keep some eye candy.
I don't have boobs. What can I do?
Right. So we got to keep some eye candy on the channel, you know, for the fellas. AI, digital ID, and blockchain to control everything. Exactly. Because blockchain technology is not going to be just for currency, guys. It's going to actually be for all information, all data. Everything's going to be controlled by blockchain. And the thing about blockchain is that it cannot be edited. So once they put a lie into the system, it will forevermore be the truth. So that's how they're going to actually take away our ability to spread the truth to one another, is a blockchain form of documenting information. So I'm just giving you guys a heads up on where they're going with this. It's part of why I'm on the fence about having children, because I'll be experiencing a lot of this stuff at the tail end of my life on the way out. But if I had children, that will be their reality. And they're creating a system where you won't be able to live off the grid, which is why it's important you guys look into Agenda 2030, because that's what they're doing with that. They're controlling the land on the earth, so you can't just go live in a rural area and just go back to the basics. They're not going to allow you to do that either. Let me see. The leads.
By the way, just as an aside, that's also interestingly enough, most people think that national parks are created for the purpose of saving land for the wild, so that we can always see what it was like to be wild. But no, that's actually taking land away from us that we can't use.
Yeah, exactly. So that they can control us in these major cities, and they can centralize the control. Imagine having to put cameras everywhere. Like if you had to put cameras out in rural areas, you know what I mean? So all they're doing is trying to consolidate. They're trying to get you to willingly come live in this little bubble, so that you could be like in a fish tank where they can control you. Basically domesticating. Right. They're domesticating us is basically what it is.
It's also, I just mentioned this, it's boiling frog theory, if anybody knows what that is.
Yeah.
If you take a frog and you throw the frog into boiling water, the frog's going to jump out immediately. But if you take a frog and you put it in cold water and you very slowly heat the water, the frog will stay there until its blood boils and it dies. Because it won't be able to recognize the change, because the change is
so gradual. Right.
And that's exactly what they're doing to us. These changes are gradual so that we don't see them.
Man, this girl talking about she's not coming to see me till before the end of the year. Bitch, you better get on something and come to me now. You know what I'm saying? See, these working women, bro, they're not available to you, man. You know what I'm saying? I don't like it, bro. I don't like it. That's why you got to have that money. You got to make that money, guys. That way you can basically just tell to a girl, listen, how much do you make? You know what I mean? Listen, I'll cover you for the week. Go ahead and take off of work. The fuck? I got time to wait on your schedule. Okay, the elites want the population at under 1 billion. You want to mention the Georgia Guidestones on that one?
Sure. Basically, there are stones in Georgia that were built in the 1970s. It's either known as the American Stonehenge or more commonly the Georgia Guidestones. And it's literally the 10 commandments of the New World Order. And the very first commandment is to keep the world population under 500 million. So, we live in a world today with, 7.4 billion people. So a reduction to 500 million would mean that over 90% of us would be gone. And so that's ultimately their goal. I kind of see this, what's going on today right now, as their first shot at really making a major reduction in population. And they've been talking about population reduction for years. Just listen to Bill Gates, listen to Prince Charles, listen to all of the elites, George Soros. They're all talking about there are too many people, there are too many people. That's what they want, is to reduce us to very little, because that way we can be controlled.
Yeah, and they're like basically coming out and saying it. They just have certain wording, trying to say it in code, but they're saying it pretty blatantly. For real, to be honest with you, I'm surprised people aren't catching on.
There's a TED Talk, I believe it was from 2015 with Bill Gates, where he literally said that we need to reduce the world population, and we can get there through the use of vaccines and better health care. Mm-hmm. So you read between the lines what that
exactly
actually means.
He's trying to kill you with a vax.
Yeah, exactly. It's not what he said directly, but basically you always have to be able to interpret what the real meaning is, because that's always going to be between the lines.
Well, listen, we don't have time to open up this can of worms, but next time, John, I want you to come with some information on CRISPR and how they're going to basically own the human genome in the future. And that's another Bill Gates, passion project. So he wants to literally own the DNA sequence of human beings and be able to gene edit, which is the most advanced form of eugenics that could be imagined. They can literally eliminate certain breeds of people just by editing them out. Like they literally can make a black baby a white baby just by editing out those genes in the womb. So we'll get into that next time.
Sure, there's a lot of information there.
Yeah, there is. I used to like Alex Jones' content. Well, Alex Jones is a double-edged sword. He gives a lot of information that's actually true, but he is a plant. He's planted by those people. Just part of controlling both sides, the Hegelian dialect. Okay.
Alex Jones is what they call controlled resistance.
Exactly. Thoughts on universal basic income? What do you think about that?
Terrible idea.
Basically. Glad I found this channel. What will the cyber attacks look like? Just no internet? I think it's more going to be the attack on not just that, but also power as well as the currency. They're going to be able to clear out your bank account.
It's that too, but also I think it's going to be an excuse to perhaps declare martial law and actually come in and take physical control of people.
Right. Yeah. I mean, you guys got to stop being so damn stingy. There's like no super chats. So, yeah, we're going to really start cracking down on that soon. My content is just too damn valuable. But, you know, I'm going to do it the same way I did it with the pre-recorded videos. I came in all generous, giving you all this free game and all this free shit. But just a heads up, I'm on record telling you that's not going to last for long. So, yeah, just so you know, we're not going to be just giving away all this free shit every day, all day. So, anyhow, just a heads up on that. The static been gone. I just noticed this conversation been fire, explosion, firecracker. Yeah, and then also starting tomorrow, I got girls coming on, and you already know how they are. They're hopping off. If they ain't no super chats, they hopping off. So I'm just letting you know, them chicks is going to be out. They gonna grab their bag and they gonna be gone. They grabbing their purse and getting up out of there. So just so you dudes know, bring your wallet next time. Just noticed the static is gone, but okay, yeah. So that's another person telling us. I guess you holding it is good.
Yeah, I've been holding it.
Yeah, I mean, we're also going to be upgrading equipment more, guys. I mean, the equipment that I have is like so overkill. I have not implemented it yet. I mean, I literally have the fucking lights they used on the Cosby Show. Like, I just haven't set it up and implemented it yet. The audio mixer I have is like so complex. Somebody else has to run it for me. Like even the lights I have are so advanced. I have to have a grafter like come and set it up for me. Like somebody from a film crew has to come and set it up for me. They're that complex. So, you know, I am going to be overboard a lot, and the mics that I want to get are so hasidity. So I'm just waiting to get the mixer set up properly so that I can now decide what mics I'm going to go with. But they're going to have me sounding all sexy and sophisticated, like that English bloke. What is his name? Yeah, so it's gonna be serious. Also, the camera angles is gonna be cray. So yeah, man, all that's coming, man. Y'all just gotta keep supporting the channel and be prepared for something different. I'm gonna be doing it different than everyone else. The other working women always available. Oh, I guess he's talking about professionals. Alex Jones is controlled opposition. Yes, exactly. What should people do now to prepare themselves for what's coming? Okay, that's a good question.
I think there are a lot of things. I mean, first of all, you need to know what's coming to some degree.
Mm-hmm.
So, I mean, one of the things that's coming, and probably coming sooner than we think, is food shortages. So, I mean, one of the things I certainly recommend is to go out and buy a lot of extra food. I've already bought months and months of freeze-dried vegetables and fruits and, you know, the kinds of things that will last me for years. So, you know, you need to go do that, and you need to realize that meat and protein are going to be very difficult to get. Because in that situation, you know, you're just not going to be able to go to your grocery store and get things anymore. So, you know, if you can get freeze-dried beef, freeze-dried chicken, anything that you can keep for years that will not spoil is a good thing to get. On top of that, you realize that you might lose power. So if you can afford it, getting some kind of a solar generator that can perhaps at least run something like a refrigerator or a stove, you know, something small so that you have something, you know, that's a good idea as well. But just be prepared to lose what are a lot of our modern conveniences.
I'm sorry, I was looking at some ass. I'm sorry, I asked the girl for a picture for the thumbnail. I was like, good Lord, did I take Viagra today? All right, sorry guys. All right, well listen, I think we're out of here. I don't see any more questions, so I think now's a good time to skedaddle. I know you got things to do, and I got to make some appointments for the rest of the week. Keep this shit improving and better. I hope this live stream, although it was late, and I apologize for that, we had some unexpected issues again. But I think this stream was probably a little bit more organized than last night. And I think last night was a little bit better than the night before. So it's a gradual process. We're getting better. And like I told you guys before, I'm just trying to knock the kinks out because, you know, John's my boy, so he understands the struggle, but I don't want to have, like, you know, a nice young lady on from somewhere else and then I'm running into technical difficulties, you know, then I'm going to look like I'm not a, you know, resourceful, calculated, you know, experienced man. And that's not how you want to look with the ladies, guys, all right? You want to look like you know what you're doing. So we bounce, you know, ideas and stuff off of each other so we can sharpen ourselves up as men and we can come into a leadership role, right? So that's the idea. Thanks for the guys that were here. We appreciate you. I know you guys appreciate John. I will have him back. I mean, he's not my fucking roommate, so I have to, schedule with him when he's available, and then we can kind of put something else together for you guys. He's also like doing a ton on his end with notes and documenting certain things and organizing the book. So he will be co-authoring the book with me. So it's we're doing a lot of things, bro. And we're looking for the guys that are taking the future seriously. You can't save everyone. You can't save your entire family. You're not gonna be able to save all your friends. You're not even gonna be able to talk about this stuff with most people. I'm just being honest with you. But the Bible, start getting into that. Like he was saying, preparation. Go ahead.
By the way, I was just going to say, in terms of the Bible, I mean, I think that you have to read the book of Revelation. I mean, understanding what the book of Revelation is, what it prophesizes, I think is very instructive, because you can see actually a lot of what is in that book actually occurring today.
Absolutely.
It's kind of frightening, but I mean, it's a definite read.
No, I mean, absolutely. And one thing I will say about the people that are pulling the strings is our perception of time is so different than the people pulling the strings, as well as the Most High. So that's like why a lot of people don't take it seriously, because they think, oh, please, ever since I've been alive, the world has been coming to an end and nothing's happened. There's people that actually make those comments, and it's like, you really aren't paying attention, and you really aren't familiar with the information. You're not familiar with the word. You're not familiar with current events. You're not familiar with past events and historical events, because it actually has been a lot of things happening and a lot of change. But what you need to understand is that the way the word is written, number one, the Bible is actually not in order of occurrence. That's one thing you got to understand. The next thing is the way that they view time is not the same as we experience it today. So these elites are doing everything strategically, step by step. So when you read Revelations and it's like, oh, the mark of the beast, and people are like, oh, I got it. Oh my God, the vaccination is the mark of the beast. It's like, no, the vaccination is not the mark of the beast, but it's a precursor to it, because
it's a precursor, but it's not the mark itself.
Exactly. So what happens is people get confused, and they either think they have no time, or they think this isn't real. It's not really going to happen. It's just, conspiracy. Like, no, that's not what it is, bro. These are the steps that they're taking to get to where they're going, and it's not something that's supposed to take place in anyone's lifetime. These people that are doing what they call the great work, they're all just basically taking the baton from the last generation, they're running with it for their lifetime, and then they're passing the baton to the next generation. So these people are just carrying out a plan that precedes them, right? It's a plan that's been going on for hundreds of years, thousands of years. So they're not trying to get to the end game in their lifetime. They're just doing their part. They're literally just doing their chapter. Your chapter is this, and that's what they focus on. So getting people to take the vax is really just about getting them to submit. It's about getting people to get accustomed to doing what they're told in regards to their health and putting something alien into their body. So now
it's also about some elimination of population.
Oh no, of course, right, of course. So
we'll die from it.
So now, when it does come time for the so-called mark of the beast, they're already primed. Because the mark of the beast is going to be something that's more dramatic than taking the poke, and it's going to be also something that you can identify on people from the outside of their body. You're going to know who took the mark and who didn't, right? It's going to be on your right hand. It's going to be on your forehead. Okay, so just know that the Bible is very descriptive. It's not like this shit is vague. They're very, very clear. And I'm telling you guys, take an interest in it and start finding some places where that actually kind of translate it a little bit better for you. I'm not talking about literally translate it, but I'm talking about find some type of platform or some type of content that actually breaks down and explains the analogies to you. Like when they're talking about the head and the breastplate, and the waist and the thighs and the like, it all makes perfect sense when you have it broken down for you and you understand what they're talking about. You literally see how the 10 toes represent different parts of a nation. You see what I'm saying? You see why one is bronze, why one is iron, why one is gold, why one is silver. Like, trust me, the Bible has so much information jammed into the analogies that it gives. You just have to understand the terminology. And then when you realize how it correlates, you're like, oh, this is fascinating how well they were able to basically send this message. But you have to understand, you have to understand the terms that they're using and how they correlate. It's hard if you're reading it from only purely a literal standpoint, because you have to understand when they wrote it, their wording was different than what it is now. If I'm making any sense. So it's kind of like how when you see the past prophets describe, like Nostradamus, for example, when he was giving his prediction for certain flying craft, he described the helicopter as a metal wasp, a giant metal wasp. Now think about that for a second. He didn't have the context of a helicopter like we do. So he described it in terms of what they were familiar in their times. And you can't tell me that a dragonfly or a wasp doesn't resemble doesn't resemble a helicopter. You can't tell me that a helicopter doesn't look like a metal wasp. Do you understand what I'm trying to say? When you look at the front of the helicopter with the two bubble windows, you can't tell me that doesn't look like the eyes on a wasp or a dragonfly. And when you look at how the propeller spin, it's similar to the wings. And then you look at the body. So he was just using terminology that they were familiar with at that time to describe this machine that's going to exist in the future and be used frequently. So the Bible is similar in that way. They're just trying to describe the future in terms that they understood in those days, guys. All right, so we are definitely going to come to that. You know, the Bible has predicted so many things that we're experiencing right now and things that have already come in the past, right? And there's things that didn't make sense back when people were reading it 100 years ago, 50 years ago. Now those things make sense. Like when they say that one of the signs is going to be when people start to consume the pig with the rat. Okay, so years ago that wouldn't have made any sense. What are you talking about? Who's eating pigs and rats together? But now they have pigs with rat DNA. So people are eating pork that has rat DNA. Well, how the heck could the Bible have known that thousands of years ago? Do you see what I'm trying to say? But do you see how that prophecy falls short until it happens? Until it happens, it didn't make any damn sense. So there's plenty of things like that in the Bible that they don't make sense until you actually are in those times. And now you're like, Even when the Bible talks about how Satan envies the Most High and the fact that he's omnipotent, meaning that he is everywhere. He's omnipotent. He's everywhere at all times. He's all-seeing. The devil doesn't have that ability. The devil can't be in more than one place at a time. He can't see everything. But it says that in the Bible, it says that's one of the things that Satan is striving to try to accomplish, is to be everywhere at the same time. Well, is that not what the internet is? Is that not what this mass surveillance is? Is that not what the Internet of Things is, when all devices are connected to one network and they can all be monitored instantaneously from one place? So you can't tell me that you see what I'm trying to say? But if you had thought about that 50 years ago or before the internet, you would have been like, how is the devil going to have this ability? Because the technology didn't exist, you couldn't perceive it. But now that technology does exist, making that prophecy make perfect sense. And you can see how the devil would be behind the internet. When you look at all the shit that's happening today, most of it takes place involving the internet one way or another. If he's the master of lies and the master of deception, what is the major tool that they use to lie to people these days? The internet. And influence people. You see what I'm saying? And control and surveillance people. So again, now all that was said about him trying to be omnipotent, now it makes sense, because Satan literally has to develop technology over decades and over generations and centuries to be able to catch up to the abilities that God already has. All right? So I just want you guys to be, taking the word seriously and be as curious about the Bible as anything else, because I know the Most High wants me to give you that message. All right, guys? So let me let John go, but real quick, let me just make sure there isn't like any really important questions in here before I let you go, John. Hold on.
Sure.
Okay. Stay tuned. Excellent. Great stream. Great job, guys. Why did God give the devil and his followers so much power and control? I think the question is, why did we give them so much power and control?
God didn't give the devil any power and control. What God did was give us free will to choose where we want to go and what we want to do and who we want to follow. It's your choice whether you follow the devil or you follow the Most High. It's not. It's
And
God doesn't force that on us.
And for the record, neither does Satan. Satan doesn't force anybody to do anything. He incentivizes you, and what it is
It's
that
for trickery.
Right, exactly. So people accept that. I mean, think about it. People don't give their soul away for free. People sell their soul. So what the devil does is he basically buys what's priceless from you, for money, fame, popularity, your lust. That's what it is. He tempts you, with these temptations of the flesh, and people are falling for it. I mean, that's what it is. You're taking that short-term pleasure over the long-term turmoil that you're going to suffer. And you really, to be honest with you, I'm not trying to make excuses for Satan, obviously not, but in a lot of ways he really is not to be held accountable, because like I just said, he doesn't force you to do anything. You have a choice. You know how many people said to me, oh man, well, I didn't want to take it, but I had to take the jab. And I'm like, you didn't have to take the jab. You wanted to keep your job. And what that means is you didn't trust in the Most High. You didn't say, you know what? Go ahead, fire me. God got my back. That's what it was, is that and if you look at the Bible, there's story after story after story where the tribes of Israel fell short because they lived in fear rather than trusting the Most High and his promise. They didn't trust him. They were like, nah, man, we got to go with the sure bet. And that's why they kept falling into the wrong hands.
Yeah, bottom line is you will be tested, and you just have to have faith.
Yeah, you just have to have faith. And you have to understand that, like, he keeps telling you these worldly, things, they don't match up to the everlasting. So we keep trying so desperately to have things and to stay here, not realizing that what's on the other side is better. So that's the thing. You keep trying to hold on to these things. Is your house really that important? Is your car really that important? Is money really that important? And most people deep down inside are going to say, yes, it's everything. Well, if it's everything, then that's what you're living for. It is not given. It has been stolen by deceit and lies. I don't think so, because most of the things that they deceive us with and lie to us about, it's willful ignorance. We don't want to go seek the truth. We don't want to go look for ourselves. I mean, how many kids are cracking open a porno magazine, but they're not cracking open the Bible? So you can't say that. It's where people's interests are. When you look at what people are interested in, they're not interested in the right things, bro. They choose these things. They have infiltrated lifespan. Okay. They have infinite lifespan. I don't think they have an infinite lifespan. Yeah, the Queen of England's been around for a while, but I don't think their lifespan is infinite. I have to wonder if the crackdown on the Canadian truckers and their bank accounts was a test run for martial law in the United States. In the future, absolutely. Absolutely, they were trying to see how people were going to respond if they just straight up took your damn money. If they just seized your money. So they have no respect for people's anonymity, no respect for people's right to send money to who they want to send money to. They basically told these people, you're not allowed to donate to people. What kind of shit is that? Just like in certain places, you're not allowed to feed the homeless. Like, how are you going to tell me who I can give food to? So, it's full control. Enforced vaccinations is basically a mind programming to make you think you don't have body autonomy. You belong to us. Yeah, exactly. And people are falling for it, because if everybody said hell no, they wouldn't have been able to do anything. No, actually, Satan works for the Most High. That's in the book of Job. I'm going to have to look into that. I don't think he works for the Most High at all. But the economy run by Satan is killing us. Facts. I always seen Bible bathers talk the talk, but the next day do the opposite. Yeah, but the Bible tells you you're not supposed to have a middleman. That's the problem. You bought into that lie, and that's another lie of the king of lies, telling that you need a pastor or whoever to interpret the Bible for you. No, you don't. All you're doing is setting yourself up for corruption. Man is flawed. So if you're going to put a man between you and God, then you'll never be able to trust the message that you're getting. Right? They can guide you, they can counsel you, they can mentor you, but they cannot give you the word of God. You need to get that for yourself. Satan.
The Vatican is about as corrupt as it gets.
No, it is. It is as corrupt as it gets. Satan means. Sorry. I think he means to say main. I think he's saying main. Satan's main adversary is ancient Hebrew. his mankind's adversary, the Most High is the omnipotent. The Most High has no adversary, Elijah. Yeah, of course not. Of course he has no. There's no match for the Most High. That's why he's called the Most High. All right, so I think that's it. Now we got to get out of here for something else comes in. John, thank you for your time, brother.
You're welcome.
Whenever, we can do something and put something else together, we will. We're not going to touch back on the same topics again. So I had to cut him off because he wanted to tell you guys everything. And I'm like, no, John, they can't handle it. They'll overdose. So, we'll get him back for some more, eye-opening talks, and we'll do it like that. All right, guys? Any last words, Sean?
No, just that there is a lot of more information out there. But what I would say is, even in between, don't wait for us to come back on and give you information. Go out and look for yourself. Nobody told me where to look or showed me where to go. I found it on my own. So, yes, it's nice to listen and to hear somebody else tell you, information and tell you where you can find it. But don't waste your time. Use your time wisely and go look for yourself. That's all I can say.
Yes, yeah, buddy. And whoever can afford a new car or a nice car or whatever, take that money, go buy you an old school bus, refurbish it, build it up, turn it into a camper, add solar panels on the top, and prepare your little get out of Dodge buggy. All right. So that's what I suggest, man. Create that and put it to the side, bro. Everybody want to buy a nice car to impress everybody. No, what you should be building is a fucking self-efficient camper. So you get the hell up out of there. Something that runs on other alternate types of fuel and has solar energy at the damn top. All right, guys. All right, we're going to get out of here. I'm going to cut you guys off, and I'll talk to you backstage, John. All right, guys. I'm out of here.
Sounds good.
Peace.